Hello, my dear friends and net aspirants. Welcome back to High Point again. I hope that you have watched my previous video about one of the comedies by Shakespeare, to Gentlemen of Verona. So, in this video, I have here with another comedy by Shakespeare, The Taming of the Shrew. So, I don't find much questions from this particular comedy by Shakespeare, but still there are some important points that we have to surely know about this particular comedy. So about his most of his comedies and tragedies and his theater and Shakespearean and Elizabethan theater, his criticism, I mean Shakespearean criticism and all, and his sonnets. I have given an elaborate study materials in my website known as www.highpoint. You can go and visit it and know what you have to learn systematically to move further more towards UGC NET JRF. And you can also call me in this WhatsApp number and message me or call me or WhatsApp me in this number if ever you want any kind of help regarding UGC NET English. And also don't forget to join the WhatsApp group. I have given the link to join the WhatsApp group in the description box. You can click it and join it. There you will get daily basis literature and daily quizzes related to English language and literature. If you are BA, MA student of English language and literature, then you can surely join it for having a daily basis question answer session or quiz session in English language and literature, about English language and literature. And also you'll get study materials, notes, cards and news and updates related to NTA UGC NET. So guys, without wasting time, let's start about The Taming of the Shrew. See, this title itself, actually it's very curious. And also this particular, when you know the story, this particular play is much criticized, even especially in the contemporary times. When you look back to Shakespearean Shakespearean plays with much more perception and much more viewpoints, this play was criticized for its anti-feministic or misogynist content. So that we will learn as we are, when we get to know the story, then you will know about it more. So let me first of all give some introduction to the play. So this is a comedy by William Shakespeare. So this is more or less one of his early comedies, and probably this particular comedy was written between 1590 and 1592. So this will be very important to know the time of composition and time of its first staging as well, because sometimes questions often asked about arranging the works in chronological order, not only the works as well as the authors, playwrights or poets related to various ages. So it is very important that this is a very fundamental kind of information when you study a particular work, that when did that particular work happen. So probably The Taming of the Shrew, Shakespeare, written between 1590 and 1592. And the play begins with a framing device often referred to as the induction, in which a mischievous nobleman tricks a drunken tinker named Christopher Sly into believing he is actually a nobleman himself. So before the actual beginning of the play, so before the beginning of The Taming of the Shrew, that play, that comedy, there is a device is used, that is the framing device is used, that is often called as induction. So that framing device is known as induction. Okay, what is happening there? So it's actually prior to the actual drama or actual action of the play, something really that is not really related to the action in the play. Something happens before it. What is happening there? There is a mischievous nobleman tricks. So a mischievous nobleman is there. He tricks a drunken tinker. So a drunkard is there who is always talking. And this mischievous nobleman, he tricks this drunken tinker named Christopher Sly. So this drunken tinker's name is Christopher Sly, and the nobleman made Sly to believe that he is actually also a nobleman himself. So that is the framing device that is used before the beginning of this play as an induction. Okay. Then the nobleman then has the play performed for Slay's diversion. So in order to divert Slay to something else, the nobleman then perform a play So the nobleman has the play performed before Mr. Slay, Christopher Slay, in order to have him diversion, in order to make him diverted from the actual scene. Then the question of whether the play is misogynic has become the subject of considerable controversy. So, like I said, if you know the story, when you come to know story as a postmodern reader, we will definitely question some of the, some of the, some of the dialogues or some of the actions happening in the play as really misogynic or against the feministic ideologies that we have now. So in the modern era, after the invention of after the change in perception happened in the modern era, many critics questioned the misogynic or anti-feministic attitude or anti-feminine attitude that the play Oliver has. In this, even the title itself shows that we'll know when you know the story. And the main plot depicts the courtship of Petruchio and Katharina, while the subplot features a competition between the suitors of Katharina's young sister Bianca. So there is a main plot happening, and also there is a subplot. In the main plot, we can see Petruchio and Katharina. Their courtship and their life, their actions are going on in the main plot. While in the subplot, we can see that Katharina has a younger sister, Bianca, who is considered as a desirable woman, an ideal woman. Are pretty much against, pretty much opposite to Catherine. And but in the subplot we can see a competition happening between the suitors of Catherine's sister Bianca. So that is the sum total of the story. Then let's see the main characters of the play. So before going into the main plot of the storyline of the play, let me tell you main characters. Unless some of you have to remember the story. So Catherine is there. Catherine is nicknamed as Kate Minola. So Katharina Minola is the full name. Kate is the nickname, or the short name given to her, and she is the shrew of the title. So you know what is meant by shrew. Shrew is the person who actually quarrels every time, and also who is not at all happy with what she has or he has, and also always complains and always shows some sort of discontent with some people and things around them. So that kind of person we usually refer as quarrelsome persons, basically. So Katharina is a kind of that kind of person, shrew. So the shrew in the title is Katharina Minola. And Bianca Minola is Katharina's sister. Then Baptista Minola is father to Katharina and Bianca. Then Petruchio is there, suitor to Katharina. And Gremio is elderly suitor of Bianca. Then see, Bianca being the ideal woman and opposite to Katharine, she is very calm and quiet and shallow. That's the usual definition given to a proper ideal kind of woman. So Bianca is like that, and Bianca got lot of suitors for herself, and Gremio is one of them, and Lucentio is there. Then there is a haberdasher, and Horatio is again a suitor to Bianca and a friend of Petruchio. Then Grumio is there. Grumio is Petruchio's manservant, and Tranio is Lucentio's manservant. Then Biodello is a servant of Lucentio. Then Vincencio is father of Lucentio, and Widow is wooed by Horatio. Okay. Horatio in the beginning, he was like wooing, trying to woo and trying to win over Bianca, but later he shifts his focus to a widow, and he woos her. And there's a pedant. He pretends to be Vincencio. Pedant is a kind of person who actually pretends to be a very learned one, pretends to be a very scholarly type of person. Okay, so pedant always displays whatever he has learned. So such a person is known as pedant, and pedant is a person who pretends to be Vincencio. So in a certain point of time, Lucentio needed a person who pretend like his father Vincencio. So they hire a pedant to do that, and there is a tailor, then Curtis, Nathaniel, Joseph, Peter, Nicholas, Philip. These are servants of Petruchio, and there are some officers. So this is the main characters of the play. I have included minor characters as well, but at least you have to remember the main characters. So if you remember the storyline, if you hear it carefully multiple times, then it is very easy to remember. I don't think that remembering a story is it's a difficult thing. So when you don't approach it as something that you have to learn compulsorily and try to find some connections and you learn, then it will be very easy for you to learn and to memorize everything. Okay, so that is the main cast of Taming of the Shrew. So this is the cast or the characters of the play. Okay, but we have an induction that is going on prior to the play before Christopher Slay. Remember? So there are some characters there in that induction. So Christopher Slay is the main character there. A drunken tinker is there. Then hostess of the ale house, that is the bar kind of place. Then Lord, there is a nobleman, mischievous nobleman who pranks on Slay and made him believe that he himself is a nobleman. Then Bartholomew is there. Bartholomew is Lord's page boy. So who is a page boy? Page boy mainly serves lords and ladies. They will help them when they walk with their long gowns, lift their tip of their dress or their gowns for them to conveniently walk, or they will hold their things. And also it's like they will serve lords and ladies, these page boys. And lords huntsmen are there, the players, serving men, messengers. So it's a very short kind of action going on in Induction, that the Lord tricks upon Christopher Slay and pranks on Slay and makes him believe that he himself is a nobleman, but actually he's a drunken tinker, nothing else. And the action is going on in an ale house. Okay, so remember that. Now let's see the summary of the play. So prior to the first act of the play, an induction played in front of a drunkard named Christopher Slay. So we can see prior to the beginning of the first act of the play, we can see an induction is played before a drunkard named Christopher Slay, and he is tricked into believing that he is also a lord, that I have already told you. And the play is performed in order to distract a slave from his wife, who is actually Bartholomew, a servant dressed as a woman. So this drunkard, he assumes that Bartholomew is there. Who is Bartholomew? Bartholomew is nothing but Lord's page boy. Okay, so Bartholomew, he dressed as a woman, and Christopher Slay believes that that Bartholomew, who is dressed as a woman, he is Christopher Slay's wife. So Slay believes like that, but the Lord is there, the mischievous Lord that is there. He wanted to distract Slay from his wife, the so-called wife that he believes that originally Bartholomew, a servant, a page boy of the Lord, dressed as a woman. So in the play, so in order to distract Slay from his so-called wife, he before him a play was performed for Slay, and that is the play, The Taming of the Shrew. Okay, so in the play performed for Slay, the Shrew is Katharina. So the play, The Taming of the Shrew, is performed before Christopher Slay in order to distract him from his so-called wife, who is actually Bartholomew, a page boy of the Lord, who is dressed as women. And the Shrew, the title character, is Katharina, the older daughter of Baptista Minola, the Lord of Padua. Then numerous men considered Katharina as an unworthy option for marriage because of her notorious assertiveness and willfulness. See, these characteristics like assertiveness, willfulness, determination, always showing complaints, asking questions. These things are not considered as good characteristics for good women, desirable women for marriage. So in that time often during our time too, those who are asking too much questions about something, those who are asserting their own personality, those who are very reluctant to obey, those who recognize they have will and they are not obedient always, such persons are considered as outspoken, especially if it is a woman. Then Katharina is such a person. Katharina always complains about. Katharina is actually a step or two more assertive, willful, and kind of showing content always, and quarrelsome kind of person who always asks question, who is also don't feel any shame to don't feel any shame to what and say to make a quarrel in the middle of the crowd. And so she is notoriously famous for this kind of personality that she carries out. On the other hand, she got a sister known as Bianca, and Bianca, her sister, is considered as an ideal woman to marry. Why? She's not assertive, she is not willful, she is not showing any sort of personality. She is like a very naive and very shallow kind of person. So Bianca, like, not like her sister Katharina, she is considered as an ideal woman to marry. Men such as Horatio, Gremio are very eager to marry her. So there are a lot of suitors for Bianca. But Baptista's one, Bianca is not allowed to marry until Katharina is wedded. So Katharina is the eldest daughter of Baptista bin Minola. So Baptista, he made a decision that Bianca won't, even though Bianca got lot more suitors than Katharina, she's not allowed to marry until Katharina's marriage is happened. Okay, so after that Bianca can choose her suitors. And this motivated the suitors of Bianca to work together to find a husband for Katharina so that they could compete for Bianca freely. So even though they compete for Bianca, if one among them has won the competition, Bianca could not marry unless or until Katharina is still there as an unwedded daughter of Baptista. So this particular decision by Baptista actually motivated the suitors of Bianca to work together for getting all their competition. They have to first of all work together to make a suitable suitor for Katharina, who will accept Katharina, who can tolerate the behavior of Katharina. And also they were together trying to find a husband for Katharina. So that why they are making an effort, so that they could compete for Bianca after that. So the plot thickens when Lucentio, who has recently come to Padua to attend university, and fell in love with Bianca. So Bianca got suitors after suitors. So another person also joins in this group of suitors of Bianca, that is Lucentio. Lucentio, he comes to Padua in order to join for university, and when he came there, he also knew about Bianca, and he happened to see her and know about her, and immediately, this is always happening, love at first time, and love at first sight, and also love so conveniently happening all the time in Shakespearean drama, not only Shakespearean drama, in some movies as well. So he also fell in love with Bianca, so that actually thickens the situation. And he overheard Baptista talking about his search for suitors for his daughter. So Lucentio not only fell in love with Bianca, but he heard about Baptista's decision, and he also overheard that Baptista is going to search. Baptista is already searching for suitors for his two daughters, Katharina and Bianca. And Lucentio devises a plan in which he disguises himself as a Latin tutor named Campio in order to woo Bianca behind Baptista's back, and meanwhile his servant Tranio pretend to be him. So this is actually a kind of disguise going on here, that Lucentio, he will disguise himself as a Latin tutor named Campio. Well, because of that, he can woo Bianca, he can go to Bianca, he can freely talk to Bianca behind Baptista's back, and nobody will suspect, a Latin tutor named Cambio is actually wooing Bianca and all. It's actually Lucentio only. And Tranio, his servant, Lucentio's servant Tranio, he will pretend to be Lucentio himself, okay? So meanwhile, so that was the plan by Lucentio, and he executes it. Meanwhile, Petruchio and his servant Grumio arrives at Padua from Verona. So another person also arrives the place Padua, which was who was it? Petruchio and his servant Grumio also arrives at Padua from Verona, and Petruchio was Hortensius friend. So when Petruchio he came to Verona, Padua, he said to his friend Hortensio that after his father's death, since his father's death, he has set out to enjoy life and wed. So he is now looking for enjoyment in life, and also he is now going to get married. So hearing this, Hortensius actually he is weaving some plans that he recruits himself as a suitor to. He recruits Hor- he recruits Petruchio as a suitor to Katharina. Okay, Katharina must get married so that they can have Bianca. So Hortensio he recruits Petruchio as a suitor for Katharina. And he presented Petruchio to Baptista as a music tutor named Liccio. So he was not actually presented Petruchio directly as Petruchio himself, but Hortensio presented Petruchio to Baptista as a music tutor named Liccio. To counter Catherine's shrewish nature, Petruchio pretends that any harsh things he says or does are actually kind and gentle. So, Petruchio, he's a very clever man, and he know how to deal with Katharina's shrewdness. And Katharina and Petruchio himself is a very tricky person. That's why he could do that. And Katharina, in order to counter, in order to balance, and in order to understand, and in order to in order to have Katharina, in order to counter Katharina, Petruchio, in order to not to feel defeated by Katharina's wit and shrewdness, Petruchio pretends that any harsh things, any quarrels, because of the harsh thing that she says or does, anything that harsh, anything that unacceptable that she says or does are actually very kind and gentle. So he pretends like that. So Catherine also she saw that she also saw in Petruchio that he's a man who could actually actually tolerate her. So Catherine also resolved to marry Petruchio, seeing that he's the only man willing to counter her quick remarks. So he is taking everything that she is telling as very kind and gentle. So Catherine also saw that he's the only man who actually encounters all his quick remarks or his behaviors. He's tolerating anyway. So he's a kind of ideal man for her to marry. But during the ceremony, he makes an embarrassing scene when he strikes the priest and drinks the communion wine. So this was not an acceptable thing to do during one's marriage. So during the marriage ceremony, he means Petruchio. Petruchio, he's actually made an embarrassing, very unsuitable thing for him in a scene that he strike the priest who actually solemnized their marriage. He strikes the priest and drinks the communion wine, which is considered as very sacred. And after the wedding, he takes her to his home against her will. So Katharina was not at all willing to go and leave her house after the marriage, but Petruchio he without considering her will after the wedding immediately she was taken to his home. And once the wedding is over, the suitors of Bianca began to compete with each other. So that was their sole motive why they wanted to get Katharina's wedding first, because the suitors of Bianca could compete between each other to have Bianca for their own. And Tranio, disguised as Lucentio, offered more dowry, and Baptista decides that once his father confirms about the dowry, he can marry her. Who is Tranio? Tranio is only Lucentio's servant, but before Baptista Minola, who is he? He is Lucentio himself, because Tranio is disguised as Lucentio. See, remember that plan of Lucentio? And Lucentio will be disguised as a Latin tutor, while Tranio will be disguised as Lucentio. So Tranio, who is now disguised as Lucentio, he offers more dowry in order to get married, in order to get Bianca. And Baptista also considers this offer, and he says that once this offer of more dowry is confirmed from his father, from Lucentio's father, then Lucentio can marry her. They now need someone to pretend to be Vincentio. So Vincentio is Lucentio's father. So in order to confirm the offer made by Lucentio, father need to come, right? Father need to come to Baptista and confirms the offer of dowry. So Vincencio should be there. So actually Vincencio, his father, does not know anything happening here. So they needed to have someone in order to pretend as Vincencio's father. So meanwhile, Tranio persuades Hortensio that Bianca is not worthy of his attention, thus removing Lucentio's remaining rival. So Hortensio was the strongest contestants for the competition for Bianca. So as Lucentio is more and more near of achieving her in marriage, Tranio, disguised as Lucentio, he persuades Hortensio that, see, Bianca, you are a nobleman, gentleman. Bianca is not worthy of your attention. You can get much more beautiful and good girls around you. You know, you can get much more worthy. Then, by persuading that way, Tranio also able to remove Licencio's remaining rival, Hortensio, from that competition. Now, what they need someone to pretend as Vincencio in order to confirm about the dowry that they are going to, that they promised, that they offered to Baptista in order to get married to Bianca. And in Verona, what is happening in Verona? All these things are happening in Padua only. But Verona, Petruchio started to tame his bride. He started to, tame. That means Katharina was a very shrewd person. She is very quarrelsome. She always complain. He always shows, her angry face kind of things. That is too much actually. If you read the pages of the play, that you will get really annoyed about Katharina, but still it is not approved of treating a woman like that, like Petruchio, taming and all. So there is nothing that we could tame a person and all. So in Verona, after reaching his home, Petruchio started taming his bride, and initially because of the treatment of Petruchio, she refused food and clothing because nothing was good enough for Katharina, according to him. So actually, initially, because of the treatment by Petruchio, she refused the food. She refused everything that was given by him, but he was not also compelling. So how he was taming her? So initially, when she started to refuse the food and clothing and whatever comforts that he was provided her, he never compelled her to accept it. So if you don't want to take the food, you are free to starve there. If you don't want the clothing, then you can you cannot have the clothes. So it was like that. And later, after some time, you cannot starve yourself more than a day, right? It will be very difficult. You will need food. But when she was about to ask food, when she came to have her food, then he refused to he refused the food in such a way that he began to act like shrew, act like an angry person who complains about the food. So when she comes and sit for having the food, so like in the picture that I have here, when she comes and sit for the food, he will act weird, like how what a kind of food that these persons are making for Katharina. It is not good at all. You should not eat it. You don't need to eat it because this is very bad food. Nothing is tasty. And the clothes, the same goes with the clothes. So when she actually wanted some clothes, he will refuse it by saying that, say, this cloth is not suitable to you. This is nothing, and this is unworthy for you, such a lady, for a lady like you. And making such remarks, he is actually refusing everything to her, and he claims perfectly cooked food as overcooked. So he makes complaints every time. So like Katrina, she was making complaints all the time. So it's the same way. Petruchio also started to make complaints about the perfectly cooked food as overcooked, a beautiful dress doesn't fit right, and a stylish hat is not fashionable, and do things like that. So he always made complaints about whatever presented to Caterina. So cook, he will say that this food is overcooked. What kind of food is this? Nobody can eat it. So Katharina, when she wanted to have some food, it was refused that way. And when she wanted to have a cloth, it was refused by Petruchio, not directly by not directly refusing her like you should not have that, but he is actually making some complaints and refusing her to taking it. And he also disagrees. So whatever Katharina is telling, he is disagreeing with her, and that disagreement. And Katharina now knows that if she does something, he won't allow her to take the food, the dress, the hat that is offered there by making some silly petty complaint. So she agrees to whatever he says. How far absurd thing that he says. So you will see how far she has changed. And after a certain period, they have to go back to Padua in order to attend Bianca's wedding with that person, Lucentio. And on their way, when they were traveling to Padua, they met with Vincentio. Vincentio is Lucentio's father, and she even agrees to him that when he said that Vincentio is woman. So Katharina has changed to some extent, to a great extent, that she will agree to whatever absurd thing that Petruchio is saying, because she doesn't want an argument. So while they were going to Padua in order to attend the wedding of Bianca, on their way they met with Vincentio, and Vincentio is also traveling along with them. And Petruchio, he said to Katharina that Vincentio is a woman, and she even agrees with it without any complaint, without any argument. And back in Padua, Lucentio and Triano made a passing pedant to pretend as Vincentio, and he agreed to the dowry offered to her. So what happens? So they don't know. See, Lucentio and Triano, they don't know that Vincentio, actual father of Lucentio, is coming to attend the wedding. So in Padua, Lucentio and Tranio, they made a passing pedant, a person, a scholarly kind of person, in order to pretend as Vincentio and just go and agree with the dowry offered to her. And Bianca, who knew all these plans, she plans to elope with Lucentio and to get married. But Vincentio arrives and encounters with the pedant who claims to be Vincentio, father of Lucentio, when Tranio appears. Tranio is also he is now also disguised as Lucentio. Okay. So Vincentio in the meantime arrives, and there are two Vincentios now, right? Real Vincentio is there, original one, and the pedant who is pretending as Vincentio is also there. And pedant, he claims that he is Vincentio, and who is Lucentio's father, and Tranio in the dressed as Lucentio also arrives there. Meanwhile, what is happening? Vincentio is getting arrested. The real Vincentio, real father of Lucentio, is getting arrested, and the real Lucentio appeared with his newly betrothed Bianca. So Tranio is not the real Lucentio. Lucentio is pretending as Latin tutor for Bianca. So to that scene when original Lucentio was getting arrested, to that scene, real Lucentio and Bianca, as newly betrothed couple, they arrived and they explained everything to them, and everything is sorted now. And because everything happened and everything resolved, Baptista, the fathers also, Baptista and Vincentio, both forgive them whatever they have done. Then Hortensio also married a rich widow, and in the end, there are three newly wedded married couples: Petruchio and Katharina, Bianca and Lucentio is there, and also Hortensio also married a rich widow. So three married couples are there in the end of the play. And a debate was break out about whose wife is most obedient among the new husbands. So all these new husbands and their servants, everybody is sitting and having a merry time, having a happy hour, and a debate break out. So as they were talking, a discussion arose about the most obedient, who is the most obedient wife among the new husbands. And Petruchio, so it was like that. Each of these new husbands, these three new husbands, they'll send their servants in order to summon their wives, in order to call their wives at once to them. At once they have to obediently come and meet them. That was the condition. And whoever's wives are coming, then they are the most obedient wives. So that was the test that they were proposing. And Petruchio is very sure that anyway Katharina will come. So Petruchio proposes a wagoner whereby each will send a servant to call for their wives, and whichever comes most obediently, immediately will have won the wagon for her husband. So a wagon is there, a kind of servant, a person, and wagon is that is the reward given to the husband of the most obedient wife. Now whoever whose wife comes obediently immediately to them in order to attend her husband, that person will win the wagon for her husband. And Catherine is the only one of the three who comes winning the wagon for Petruchio. So actually, surprisingly, everybody thought that Bianca, being the ideal person, who will come immediately when Lucencio calls for her. But it was Katharina. For everybody's surprise, Katharina is the only one of the three who comes and wins the wagon for her husband Petruchio. So then howls the other two wives. She then howls the other two wives into the room, giving a speech of why wives should always obey their husbands. Towards the end, after coming to her husband, Katharina makes a very high speech about the obedience of the wife, and why every wife should always obey their husband. And she makes a elaborate speech and all. The play ends with Baptista, Hortensio, and Lucencio marveling at how successfully Petruchio has tamed the Shrew. So everybody was surprised about Katharina and her change of attitude and all. So when the play ends, both everybody, including Katharina's own father, Hortensio and Lucencio, everybody was surprised, and they were actually glorifying and marveling how successfully Petruchio has tamed. They are continuously using this word term, tamed, not even changed, but tamed Shrew. Tamed the Shrew. So with that note, the play ends. So now you know the story. Then if you know the change in perception of the modern times, you well aware of the feministic things and all. But considering the characteristics of Katharina is a bit more it's not that she is not a gloriously or gracefully Shrew, but she is complaining about everything and anything and everyone around her. She was not at all showing any content or satisfaction with anything that she is getting, or she is always quarrelsome. She is actually intolerable kind of person to some extent. But being a person, being a woman, I cannot actually fully agree with the concept of obedient wife and taming of the shrew. All these kind of terms, actually I'm not agreed with it. As students, you can have your own perceptions, but still let's see the themes. So marriage is an economic institution. It's always been like that. So marriage is an economic institution is one of the major themes in the play, and the effect of special roles in individual happiness. So one is actually seeking, every man especially they are seeking, and women also they are seeking individual happinesses, and the effect of special roles, they are choosing special roles to play. So see in here Lucentius chose to play or disguised himself as Latin tutor. And also, so in order to, they are playing special roles for individual happinesses, and there are of course some feminist themes and also misogynism. In the modern times, we also see misogynism as a undercurrent or ongoing themes in this particular play, The Taming of the Shrew. So that's all about Taming of the Shrew. I hope that the storyline of the play was pretty much clear. Do remember the important characters, and also if you could make some notes of the characters and the play plot line, then that would be great for you to understand and also remember the storyline. So that's all about it. If you have any questions, queries, as always, mark that all that in the comment section, and also please watch the video full. If you like the video, press the like button and also share this with your friends and family. Don't forget to don't forget to click the WhatsApp group link and join the WhatsApp group if you want, if you need it, because there you will get daily quizzes related to UGC NET English language and literature, and also notes cards, study cards, and news and updates related to the same. And also you can message, call, or WhatsApp me in this number, in this given number, because I'll be very glad to help you with my own experience with UGC NET, JRF, and email. And if you want to know anything academically related to English language and literature, then I'll be very happy to provide. And if you want me to make any further contents related to English language and literature, anything you can mention in the comment section. And also don't forget to visit my website www.highpoint.in. That will be a real a real help for you to understand what you have to study for UGC NET. And there are further more suggestions and tips and strategies that you have to follow if you want to effortlessly carry out your studies of UGC NET English. So don't miss to join the WhatsApp group, and also don't miss to visit my website, and also you can have a chat with me in the given number. So that's all. Bye bye. Thank you. Meet you in the next video.